All right, welcome back to Blue Collar Comics. If you've been around, you know the gist. This channel is just all about collecting comics and talking about comics on a budget. Hence the title Blue Collar Comics, showing that you don't have to get, fancy keys or super expensive issues or whatever to still get something out of the hobby and appreciate the art and stories, the characters, the fun, all that. Okay, I'm feeling a little under the weather today, by the way. So my throat's a little not great. So we'll do our best. Probably caught something from Motor City Comic Con, which is where most of this haul is from. I went with my wife on Friday, which was a great idea in hindsight because I heard that Saturday was super busy. We had an awesome time, people watching, sightseeing, just visiting all the booths, checking out artists and their work. We had a couple regrets. My wife and I were planning to get a print from Michael Cho, who was there. We both really like his style, which kind of harkens to a smaller color palette, kind of more gold and silver agey art style. And we were going to get a print from him. We got a bite to eat, and we went back to the booth and he was gone, so that kind of sucks. And I didn't plan very well. We kind of went right after I got off of work, so that because the con closed really early at like 7. So by the time I got off work early afternoon, we kind of just rushed around to make sure we had enough time to actually, you know, make it worthwhile. So I didn't bring any of my Mark Waid stuff. My Dennis Cowan stuff was stolen back in college. That was a part of that box of like Static and stuff. I'm a big Static fan. Obviously I'm the generation that grew up with that show, being like in that 10 or so age range, watching that. And he was there, so I didn't get anything cool from any of the artists or writers. But talked to a couple people, walked around. It's just a great atmosphere, and we spent a good chunk of time digging through the 50-cent bins together. Even though my wife doesn't collect comics, she just enjoys the atmosphere and energy, and she appreciates art. And yeah, we have fun together with it, and so it's kind of funny putting her to work searching through some of the bins I wasn't searching. But yeah, the 50-cent bin, there was just like one vendor, and they were smart because they were attracting a lot more people, because the guy basically said that the shop he worked for was like, they took most of their priced out stuff that was $2 and $3 and their dollar bin books and just put them all in these long boxes for 50 cents. Like this one had a sticker on it for $3, but if you can see this is like really low grade, which is fine because I don't have this. And Mike Mignola is one of my favorite artists. Speaking of minimal color palettes and just, I don't know, very moody artwork. Anyways, so there's a lot of people digging through those bins, and we kind of made some friends. It was fun because, yeah, the energy was just really positive, and everybody's in a good headspace, and everybody's kind of there for the same reasons, and we were all kind of helping each other find what we were looking for. And there was this woman that was looking for Iron Man, and there wasn't that much, and I found one randomly and walked it over to her, and she was just like, just over the moon excited. And a guy next to me was looking for Triangle era Superman, which there was plenty of that. And it almost made me want to start collecting Triangle era Superman right then and there, because they did have a deal for a long box for $100, which was like 30 cents a comic probably you could do, maybe even less. But after I dug for a while, I just couldn't get to that. I think I ended up spending, I think he charged me 40 or something for everything I got. Most of what I'm showing today is from those bins. I will try to specify if it's not, but basically everything, maybe a few things here and there. But yeah, it was awesome. I'd love to get out to a couple smaller cons, and just the vibe's pretty great. And next year I'm definitely going to come more prepared, and kind of have a game plan as far as like creators and stuff. But yeah, so this is Batman 453 with Mike Mignola cover, newsstand, and the grade is like a 0. It is really, really beat, which is I guess why it's 50 cents. I got my Batmans, I guess, for today, or for the front of the box. It's Batman 521 with as always, incredible Kelly Jones cover. We should adjust this. That's good. Did not have that. Basically, everything I bought, I'm filling in runs, or filling in holes in my collection. Here's 530. This is that arc with Batman and Deadman together, which Kelly Jones draws a disconcerting Deadman. These were in their $3 bin, or their $3 priced out section during the shop's normal hours. 603 Detective Comics. This is minty. Obviously it's not like a key book or anything, but for 50 cents. 50 cents Detective Comics, like, yeah, of course. I'm basically trying to collect Detective Comics and Batman, with some exceptions. Like if I find something more affordable, then I will go back further. Like I have a few issues further back, but the general idea is to go from Crisis to the present, to kind of have those, which is, it's, as time passes, that's going to be a lot of books, but it felt like a decent like cutoff point for my own collection. This is 606. This is also 50 cents, and it's just like ridiculously, like, it's in really, really good shape. These are from like 88, so they're not like ancient, but they're not, you can find a lot of books from then that are super beat up. Here's 660 from the Nightfall. And I guess I was missing this. I checked my app, and then I checked my box that I've got this era of Detective Comics in, and I didn't have it. So that's filling that hole for 50 cents. Here's Detective Comics number 719. And you can see he's got some nerd neck problems there, for sure. All right, and I did get, for 50 cents, the book that is going to pay for my retirement. Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, issue number 1. It's a collector's special. I bet in 20 years this will easily be worth $30,000 to $40,000 on its own. For 50 cents, you can't go wrong with that. I'm kidding, but I do just want to collect that Legend of the Dark Knight series, because I really like the anthology vibe, and them bringing on different creative teams. All right, so I've been getting back into Doom Patrol, and I found this for 50 cents. This is the first issue of the second volume, post Crisis. This one's written by Kupperberg, who did the first 17 issues, or 18, I want to say. I have not read Kupperberg's run, which I know this is pretty common, but basically I just skipped over that, and I've read most of Morrison's run, which is phenomenal. And they did not have any other Kupperberg titles in the 50 cent bins, but for the first issue, it's pretty cool, for 50 cents. They did have a lot of the rest of that run. which I've been reading digitally here and there, but I would love to collect because I like to collect things. Even if I've already read the issue digitally, I like to collect things that I enjoyed enough to want to have it in the collection. There's number 32, which is heavily in the middle of the Morrison run. Also, these covers, which they kind of have that Vertigo look. It's not Vertigo yet, because Vertigo, I think, was Vertigo began as an imprint in like '93, and I love a lot of the Vertigo stuff. As you'll see, this haul is pretty Vertigo center. But there was another guy looking for Doom Patrol, as I was, and at first I was like, oh man, he's gonna like get them all. And he had a stack, and he was kind of like piecing them out, or like sorting them, like one stack for one. He was separating them into different stacks. There we go. And I just said, hey, if you're separating those for ones you don't want, I'll take the ones off your hands. And he was checking his app to see which ones he had. So I basically got his the ones he didn't want, plus whatever ones I was finding in the bins as well. So I probably got like 10 from him, and then I got more on my own as well. And some of them, I know for a fact, were in their $2 to $3 section because they actually had bags and boards. These boards are a little too slim, so I might have to switch them out. Because you can see, like, the other one I just had I put my board on it, but this one's barely wide enough. That's number 37. In my opinion, one of the more unsettling comic book covers. Just kind of the longer you look at it, the more uncomfortable you get. But yeah, for 50 cents, this was like a no-brainer for me. If you've watched any of my videos, I love weird stuff. Not that I'm like afraid of regular cool mainstream stuff. Not that Doom Patrol's some esoteric, it's not, Doom Patrol's not like underground comics. I'm not suggesting that. But I do love my weird, my moody, the Misfits. This is number 38, which is another Nightmare Fuel cover. I definitely wouldn't consider Doom Patrol necessarily to be a horror book, but it flirts with horror, which is another one of my favorite genres. But just beating a dead horse here, but there's this kind of through line of like mentally struggling or mentally unwell characters that are nonetheless, saving the day, and from some, usually, at least in Morrison's run, incredibly weird threats. And I know this is a little off center, but whatever. I gotta get a tripod at some point. That's 56. Now we get into, and I'm super excited to get these because I have not read them. I've only read the Morrison run from this series. I have read a good chunk of Gerard Way's, or however you say it, the guy from 30 Seconds to Mars. His post-Rebirth Doom Patrol. This is number 64. This is the Rachel Pollack run, and I think this is the first issue from that run. This is a fantastic cover, by the way. Yeah, I've heard good things about her run. People, it's kind of similar to, like, there's a kind of an Alan Moore effect, or where it's like the people that follow up some legendary runs, they, even if the run is really, really good, they kind of don't always get the appreciation they deserve. So I'm excited because I've heard good things. It's number 64. Obviously, I didn't fill the whole run, but I made some really good progress on it. Number 65. Number 67. And is that supposed to be Chief on the front there? I don't know. Maybe someone that's read it can tell me. But this is still in the Rachel Pollack's run. Looks like art by Linda Medley, sorry. This is a great cover. My wife was digging through. She found this one and was like genuinely disturbed, as was I. That's Doom Patrol number 68. We've got some, I don't know, some Eraserhead vibes there a little bit. And I don't know if I'm just really, if my eye is really bad, but I'm pretty sure that's a photo cover, even though it's credited to Tom Taggart, which it's mixed media for sure. But it is the A cover as far as I can tell. That's number 70. And I don't think they even really had B covers at this point. This was like pre-variant craze, I think. At least in Vertigo. I don't think Vertigo was doing it. Here's 74. That's got kind of that almost house-style Vertigo cover. And obviously the interiors are all completely different across these titles. But the covers, oftentimes, they did have a bit of a little bit like that oily, well, this isn't, but just kind of that, I don't know, absurdist realism. I don't know. I'm not an art critic. 74. Do not come to this channel for wisdom. I have a rhetoric and composition degree. I do not have any experience with visual art aside from appreciating it. And I love films. And I write about films, but that is not the same, and I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to comic book art styles. I just know what I like. This is number 75, a phenomenal cover there. Number 76. Ted McKeever's drawing them now, who most people like. And I know for a fact I have read a series drawn by him, and it is escaping me currently. 77 there. 78. So I got a nice little run here of an arc or two or whatever. Yeah, and she wrote it for a while, because here's 79. We're already over a year into her run there. But yeah, Doom Patrol, I've watched a little bit of the TV show, but that wasn't really what got me into them. It's just the sort of... There's similarities with the X-Men, obviously. That's 81. Obviously, they're not as popular as the X-Men. I think in part because... a lot of the X-Men, although there's many mutants that are certainly not cool, but a lot of the X-Men I think are really, they're really cool, like Gambit and Wolverine and Rogue and Jubilee, and there's 86. I mean, the list goes on. Obviously, Jean Grey's really cool. Storm's got control of the elements. Like, they have very cool, they have very, very cool powers. Here's number 87. And I don't know, is that the end of the run? Or is it the end of Pollack's run? That's the last book that I found in the 50-cent bin. But yeah, Doom Patrol, they're weird, but in a very, like, how can I put this? It's not a sexy weirdness, if that makes sense. Like, they are weird in a genuinely weird way. Like, their powers are oftentimes, like, not cool. They are similar to the X-Men, I think, kind of feared and hated and misunderstood, and they're outcasted because most of them are deeply mentally ill, or in some cases they're possessed by some cosmic entity like Hollow Man. Um, yeah, and something about that, there's a sort of quirky sadness to it, but that has this undercurrent of hope um, through it all that I find really is really compelling and really draws me in. Um, Makes me kind of feel a genuine investment with the characters. And obviously Morrison's got his high concept with a team book like that that's on the fringes of a publisher's world. You can really take more swings, and the situations that they find themselves in are truly weird with a capital W, and it just fits the whole team's dynamic, the whole aesthetic and atmosphere of the book, and the philosophical underpinnings are there if you want to look for them, but if you don't, it's just really fun, strange, bizarre superhero adventures with like a kind of a sad and struggling set of characters. And as someone who has mental illness, and oftentimes I struggle, getting out of these really, really tight head spaces because I have OCD, and you just kind of clamp your brain just kind of clamps down on something and doesn't let go. I can those books and series and characters like that really resonate with me. This is issue 3 from the Jeff Johns Justice League New 52 run, which I have read some of, or a good chunk of. It's been a long time. This was probably in that chunk that got stolen when I was in college, because this was coming out around that time. It was getting to be, yeah, I probably had this in the past. But for 50 cents, I'm not going to pretend to be some hipster. I like Jim Lee's art, whatever, man. Like, it's Jim Lee. 50 cents, Jim Lee. This series was pretty decent for a while. I was not like a huge New 52 fan, as most people were not. And it's got Wonder Woman on the front. Pretty sweet. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'm trying to like fill this run in. I do have a completionist mindset because I am OCD, and certainly on some levels on the spectrum. But I don't necessarily know if I have interest to complete this whole run. This is number 4, and I only got a couple of these issues here because there weren't that many. It's a sweet Aquaman cover. I am trying to fill the 1996 run, I think, eventually, because they're just dirt cheap. There's just like not a single key issue in there. It's like I could get them all for easily less than $1. Here's number 5. This is that first arc, I think, with Darkseid that they made into that animated movie in like 2013 or something like that. And Hal Jordan's characterization in it is a little strange. That's all for the Justice League from that era, at least. And then I grabbed a couple Preachers. I know Garth Ennis is sometimes his writing can be a bit edgelordy, but I think it's often got enough of the edges sanded off with the kind of outrageous comedy that I like it. And Preacher, I've been reading some, is pretty sweet too. It was really serendipitous how there's been a few series I've been reading lately. Like I was saying, I've been getting into some of these Vertigo titles again, either reading them for the first time or rereading them lately. And then these 50 cent bins just happen to have a bunch of them, which I don't know, maybe that's what they're worth. Maybe they're worth nothing, but at least at my comic book shop, and the few others in the area that I've been to, basically every Vertigo title from this era, or at least any era that I've seen, there's not that many Preachers in here, 18 there. Every Vertigo title that I see at my comic shop in the back issues is like at least $2-3, usually $3 or $4 a pop. So maybe I got a good deal. Maybe my shop is just marking them up. But Hopefully YouTube doesn't get me in trouble for some of these covers. This is number 57. It's a great cover. It's certainly off-putting. It's a good series, yeah. And I think Ennis is I think he's a very good artist or writer. You know what I mean. He's a good creative mind, and a very strong writer who oftentimes gets in his own way a little bit. But I will take, how can I put this? The older that I get, the more I am interested in, not that I'm old necessarily, but the idiosyncrasies and the flaws in a writer, let's say, can be more interesting to me than something that is maybe like super polished but not. I guess I could have had Wade sign some of these because he did a bunch of these after Morrison left or in between Morrison's issues. Anyway, sorry. Flaws can be interesting to me if a writer's overall sensibilities are, you know, compelling and idiosyncratic and interesting, which I think Garth Ennis's work is, at least some of the ones I've read. I have no interest in The Boys. I've never read it, but I feel like that's kind of maybe some of his worst instincts. But also, I think a lot of people also don't understand that when he employs some of that humor, sometimes he's critiquing those things. He's not like I don't think he's particularly like endorsing the behavior of a lot of the characters. But Preacher does have a lot of great relationship work, which I think is what other like edgy writers do not fully grasp when they are in that same realm as Ennis. Like Ennis's relationship and character work is genuinely good, which helps either making some of that kind of humor, cringy, darker, edgier stuff work, or at least makes it tolerable. Enough of that. JLA. This is the 96 run. I've shown other ones in this. They are dirt cheap. I love this team. I grew up on this show, which is largely inspired by this run in terms of like tone and mood and the overall kind of vibe of it. Obviously, there's a few characters that are switched out for the show. Like it's not Kyle, it's John, and so on. But so I'm filling in the holes here, and they had a lot of those issues in the 50-cent bins. It's issue 51, written by Mark Waid. Issue 54. But even, you know, these issues don't have any importance to me because I have not read this yet. So I didn't really feel, you know, I wouldn't have really felt like great about walking up to the booth to get something signed just cause, you know. So it was just kind of like, hey, you know, like your work. Which is, by the way, I'm not knocking anybody for just getting something signed just because. That's totally valid. Totally valid. Just not something that I felt like doing. This is number 55. I feel like it would be cooler to like talk about the thing I'm getting signed, you know, explain how much I enjoyed it and the importance of it. 57 in that Wade run. I'm excited to get to this, and it's, you know, a Justice League title that has, I would argue, two of the better comic book writers of the last 35 years or so working on it. It can't be all bad, especially not for 50 cents a pop. 58, great cover. Could I get these cheaper if I bought them in bulk, even than 50 cents? Probably. 62, Wonder Woman in bondage. It's kind of her roots in some way, but it's also about breaking free of those, and hopefully that's kind of part of the story. 62. If you know the Wonder Woman history, I should say. There she's, yeah, there you go. 63. 67, which for some reason I am getting deja vu. So I may have either already shown this or I double bought it. But it wasn't in my collection app, so we'll see when I go to file these away. And then Kurt Busiek took over. See, I didn't even know that. So this run is just like full of great writers throughout the whole thing, and Ron Garney on art. And then I picked up one from the next volume, which is the Meltzer starts writing it, and then McDuffie and Ed Benes, I think that's how you pronounce it, the Cheesecake Maestro on art. Good artist, obviously, like kind of evocative of Jim Lee in some ways, or in that realm. Maybe he was first, I don't know, probably not. Jim was probably first, but it's kind of in that realm. At least to my eye, it's got Jim Lee influence. But obviously, Benes is known more for cheesecakey stuff than Jim Lee ever was, which is, I'm not going to yuck anybody's yum. I like some of that. You'll see. I got some Catwoman. I got some Balland Catwoman. This for 50 cents was pretty sick. This is issue 1. I'm sure it's not worth much more than that, but I just didn't have it. Issue 1 of the 1990 Green Lantern series. Not supporting this guy. If you want to know, Google it. I'm not going to say it out loud, but not a upstanding, wholesome person. But not supporting the writer, buying this secondhand, whatever. Yeah, that's number 1 with the, what do you call that hair? The wings, the silver wings or whatever. And I'm filling in the holes in that run, and I'm getting pretty close to being completed with it. Here's number 7. I want to say I'm only missing some of the issues like a little later in the run. Not the final ones, so that's good because those are lower print, I'm sure. But 7. Are they just frying a Guardian of the Universe there? And the other Guardians are looking on? All right. And then we have the series that leads into Guy Gardner's Solo, which is also written by Jared Jones, who is, again, not a person I support. This is a guy in his Njort, and this is, cute Guy Gardner nonsense, and I love Guy. What are you gonna, he's just this, like, lovable jackass, It's plus we have the same hair color. Although he's got a fuller head of hair than I do. Issue number 10. And I was super happy to find this for 50 cents because it's in really, really, really good shape. And it was like the last one I needed for the mosaic like arc of this series. Sweet John Stewart cover, who was my Green Lantern growing up. Which again, if you haven't watched my other videos, I was not a huge Green Lantern fan as a kid. I loved John Stewart in the show, and he was obviously in the Justice League books that I would read, but I was not a big fan until I was an adult. And the overcoming fear aspect with Jessica Cruz really drew me in. And then I kind of went back and got more into it retroactively, if that makes sense. I don't have many, if any, from this series, but it was too good to pass up for 50 cents. It's in solid condition. Shoot. I think his first name's Steve, but I think Steve Englehart was there on Friday. This is Green Lantern Corps, which, if I'm correct, is technically like a continuation of the Green Lantern title, like it's just renamed, but the numbering continued. This is 215. It's just a great cover, Salak and Alas. And if you know Green Lantern, like, lore at all, Salak is like this, he's this goofy-looking alien who is essentially like, you could think of him as like the Green Lantern version of like a kind of stuffy librarian. The cover I just had to get it. It's really cool. Oh yeah, found these for 50 cents. I have heard nothing but good things. based on what I'm interested in comic books, this seems like it's going to be incredible. The omnibus for this was just released, but I don't collect omnibuses because I feel like, one, they're expensive even though they're really cool. Probably cheaper overall than my comic collection maybe, but I feel like they're like kind of a pain to read because they're so heavy. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe in a year or two you'll see a video and it's all I'll be buying is omnibuses. Well, who knows? But for now, I'm a single. I have like the only trades I have are like I have a Gail Simone trade that I got signed from her 10 years ago or so, and I have a bunch of the Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips stuff that they released. Like they're not even trades. Like they released them only as graphic novels. You know, that's about it though for my collected quote unquote editions. Everything else is in singles in the white BCW boxes. But anyways, this is John Ostrander and Tom Mandrake's The Spectre. And it's got the horror and the macabre and the morbid kind of tinges to it. I almost guarantee it's up my alley. Ostrander's Martian Manhunter run from around this era is really good, so I like Ostrander's work. Yeah, it's going to have existential, I'm sure, like some existential, morbid, cosmic horror-ish vibes. I'm going to like it, but so it's one of those things where when you're in these 50-cent bins, I did not have a single issue of this run, you know? And it's one of those things where you just kind of like pick it out and you think, okay, maybe I'll get it. You just kind of set it aside and then you find a few more. And now it's like, well, I guess I'm collecting this run. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else is like that. But I am. So I guess I am collecting the Spectre now. And the nice thing is all of these covers are certified bangers, as the kids say. This is number 18. Number 19. But yeah, there's like a theme with what I was pulling was a lot of like, you know, a lot of darker stuff. Obviously JLA is not really, but there's the Spectre number 19. Number 20. Beautiful covers. The trade dress is that does something for me, man. The trade dress is 23. 24. This is probably, I don't know. I'm not going to say necessarily, but this is maybe my favorite cover of the haul. I don't know how to make things thumbnails, but I'm going to make this the thumbnail if I can. But I don't know how to do YouTube. I'm an idiot. 24. 25. That's all for Spectre, but I guess I'm collecting that now. At least the Ostrander run. And then I got a whole bunch of Hellblazer. Right up my alley. You got the kind of noir vibes. You've got the supernatural horror vibes. If you know me at this point, you know I like stuff like that. I guess I'm a sicko. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I also like that he's kind of morally gray. I feel like he tries to do the right thing, but because you're dealing with the occult and witchcraft and whatnot, it's like never kind of coming out right, you know, type deal. And also the kind of, you know, British, I don't know if he's Cockney, but you know, that the accent just kind of comes through, and he's always smoking. And I love that the character ages as the series goes too. That's in comics, at least in the types of comics that I often read, like more mainstream comic books, I feel like is mostly what I've been exposed to, which I would consider this mainstream. I'm not suggesting it's not. So that's very rare in mainstream comics. That's number 13. And we skip way ahead here to number 62. when the Ennis and Steve Dillon era, which I've heard I've not gotten here yet, obviously, but I'm collecting Constantine now, I suppose. But I've heard that that's some of Ennis's best work. 68. But yeah, the occult and the kind of tone of the book where there's this kind of, or 70, it's this kind of gray area. There's horror tinges to it. There's kind of like noir, slice of life aspects that are interesting and I think fairly rare in comic books. There's number 81. It's a great cover. 82. That's still the Ennis and Dillon era. And another reason why I wanted to collect Constantine is, here's 85, and this is the example. Good timing there. Sean Phillips is one of my favorite comic book artists of all time, and probably as well suited as anyone to draw this type of title. I don't think anyone could draw Constantine or Hellblazer stuff more fitting than Sean Phillips. There is number 86, also drawn by Sean Phillips. I don't know how many he did, but the fact that he did any of them, I'd love to collect his work. So I know this series is super long, so even if I don't collect all of them, I would like to at least get all the ones he drew, which maybe I did today. I don't know. I have not looked up how many he did. Here's 93. Paul Jenkins writing this one and Sean Phillips drawing. He did quite a few. I mean, at least the ones I have. 94. Long video again, folks. Sorry. I just get to talking. 112, and he's still drawing it. Or maybe he took a break and I just got lucky. But this was really a treat to find so many of them drawn by Phillips, and that was kind of what tipped me over. I was already interested in Hellblazer because I just like the character and that whole mythos and that whole vibe, like I was just saying earlier. So it wasn't like hard to convince me, but there's 129. That's the last one I got in the 50-cent bins. And then I got a bunch of Wonder Woman. I've talked extensively about, not extensively, but I've talked about getting into her lately. This is from the Rucka run, which these are, at least when I find them in the wild, not in a 50-cent bin, they're not 50 cents. I don't really know why, but they're not. I've only found them in like $3-4. And then I got a bunch from the Rebirth series. There's number 2 of the Rucka's second run with Nicola Scott on art, she's probably as fitting as anybody, I think, to draw Wonder Woman. And at this point in time, her and Liam Sharp were alternating art duties. This is the Frank Cho variant, which is $50, so fine. I'm not a big Frank Cho fan necessarily, but 50 cents, whatever. They were alternating from the past arc, like the past issues were the even numbered ones and the odd numbered ones were the present. And so they're both phenomenal artists, but they have very distinct styles. So I really liked that. Because I did read that first arc or two of Rebirth, and then I got rid of the Wonder Woman issues, and now I'm getting them back again. Smile. 26, this is the Jenny Frison variant. She is my favorite cover artist or variant cover artist or whatever. And she's the only there's probably some other ones, but she's one of the only artists who I will like double dip for a cover. But they didn't have 26's A cover, so I'll have to get that eventually because I am a stickler for the A covers. But yeah, I'll usually double dip for Frisson if she's drawing like a character like her Catwoman covers, or I'd love to go get her other Wonder Woman covers because she did a lot of them during this era. 27. $29. 37. This is a really good cover, but I have heard that the Robinson run is, to put it nicely, dog shit. So we'll see. I haven't read it, but nobody, and I mean nobody, has nice things to say. But this is a cool Dark Side cover with him hoisting her up. 43. And I'm pretty sure it's because of this guy right here that people don't like it. We will find out. 43, the Frisson variant for 50 cents. It's not in the best shape. There's some like dirt, I think, or somewhere in there, but whatever, man. 50 cents. Frisson's, her art's just, man, it's just, I don't know. It's good. Speaks to me, and my wife really loves her covers too. And again, she's not even really into comics, but she wants to like frame a couple of my Catwoman covers. So 45. Now we're into the Steve Orlando stuff because he did like 2 short runs on the character. Again, I'm new. I am new to Wonder Woman fandom. She's really been what's the word? Pulling me in lately. Like I've really been into her. I've started collecting her. I've got like a short box worth already. But I don't know much. I'm underread, if that makes sense. But I know Orlando did a couple, and they are short runs in this era, and they're considered pretty good. So I'm excited to dig into those. 54. Luckily, we could go out to the car and there was re-entry because we walked away from this vendor with 2 big black bags of comics. 55. Oh, this is the callback to the Middle Eastern Amazons from Perez's run that I've been reading lately. That is phenomenal. If you haven't read it, it's pretty dense. Not dense in terms of like necessarily like, oh, it's really heady, but dense in terms of it's just like a lot, each issue. Terry Dodson cover, G. Willow Wilson. This is her run, 61. It's dense, but it's worth it. This is an awesome cover. Love covers like that kind of make you, the reflection covers. I don't know. It probably all goes back to Hulk 340. 770. We get some Norse. Looks like we're getting some Norse adventures here, which would be pretty sweet. That's Becky Cloonan. At this point, Becky Cloonan took over. It looks like she was co-writing. 785. 788. That's a Yannick Paquette cover, I believe, if I'm saying his name right. Yannick Paquette? I'm not sure. Good artist. His work, this is not where it's supposed to be, but Batman 424. I'm not going to not pick that up for 50 cents. It's in really good shape, too. Paquette's art on the New 52 Swamp Thing series with Scott Snyder writing is phenomenal. That's a great series, by the way, if you have not read it. And it's very accessible. 92. Oh, filling in that Green Lantern filling in the Green Lantern 1990 series. I must just have these out of order right now, but this is the Ron Mars, Daryl Banks stuff. That's a great cover also with the two newer the newer people taking up the mantle. Wonder Woman cover there, 108, didn't have it. 50 cents, yes sir. These are some late issues. This is a little risque. Some late issues in the Jeff Johns run from 06. So I'm filling that run in. Here is 61. Gotta love that eyesore of that top banner. Oh, and then I have not read this series, but I've gotten into Green Lantern, obviously, and I like the space fantasy ridiculousness of it. This is the New 52, written by Peter Milligan, so I feel like I'm going to give it a shot. Generally like his work. Red Lanterns series. So, probably kind of anti-hero vibes, or maybe they're just straight up villains like they are sometimes. Who knows? But for 50 cents, these are all in good shape. And Ed Bennis, the Cheesecake Master, did some of the art too. So the art's probably, he's a good artist. Say what you will about some of the more objectifying ways that he draws women sometimes, but speak of the devil. Number 3, that's almost like Vampirella. Almost like a Vampirella-esque comic, but that's the character Bleeze, who is an interesting character. So I will give this a shot. Space fantasy ridiculousness. It's good escapism. Number 6, and obviously I do kind of know some of the spoilers about Guy Gardner in this series, and that's interesting enough. It's crazy. I was looking up that series went for like 40 issues, which is just unbelievable. I would have expected like 6 or 8 for like kind of a spin-off offshoot series. And then my boy, one of my favorite things to collect. Every time I saw one of these in the 50-cent bin, I just leapt for joy because I love Swamp Thing. I love everything about Swamp Thing. I've talked about it before, but the philosophical stuff, the horror, the environmentalist stuff, the creature feature stuff, the relationship between Swampy and Abby, the kind of yin and yang pull there with, death and decay and life and the green. I don't know. I love it. I love Swamp Thing. This is from Nancy Collins's run into the Vertigo imprint. She rules. She's awesome, seriously. But yeah, this is number 133, strange cover. Another regret that I had from the con is I was well under my budget of what I was like going to be okay spending. And there were some issues of the Alan Moore in really good condition. 134 there. That I did not buy because the sticker price just kind of turned me off. But there was they were worth it, and they weren't that expensive. And even though it kind of goes against my general approach to collecting, that's 141. I did not know Morrison wrote Swampy. Like, I haven't read his issues. So maybe I'm not a real fan. But I will be reading them now. 143. But I was kicking myself for not picking up some of those more like kind of minor keys that were in good shape just as like a souvenir from the con, which I guess these all are. 145. $160. I'm curious. I've not gotten this far, obviously, but I'm curious about, in my reading, about Mark Millar's take, because from a glance, I'm not sure how well he he fits with my, Phil Hester. 166. I'm not sure how well he fits with my personal view of how Swamp Thing should be as a writer, Millar, I mean, but we'll see. And then looks like we're gonna round out the video with some Catwoman. This is from the Jim Ballant era. One of the OG cheesecakey artists, but his art is really good. I've read some of this run. Joe Duffy, she started the run. She does a really good job. I think some people dismiss Catwoman because she's never had. I talked in a prior video about her, but she's never had like a legendary run. You know, like she's had some good ones. Like I think this is good from Duffy, and I think some of the Dixon stuff's good. The Brubaker stuff is obviously very good, but I'm a little biased towards because Brubaker's one of my favorite comic writers. But she's never had like a legendary run. Oh, and some of her stuff like currently in the new series, or new quote unquote, the 2018 to the present, like Rom V, the current stuff by Grunbeck, I think is her name, Torrin Grunbeck, is really good. It's almost, anyways. I think she doesn't get enough credit for having some pretty good comics, and just because she doesn't have any legendary runs. This is number 8. I love this up here with the corner box there. Number 25, she's got Robin in little kinky. She's got him in a kinky predicament. Number 25. Not a fan of Chuck Dixon as a human being, by the way. Don't really agree with his politics, but. And then I got issues 44. I kind of consider this the Ballant era because even though the writers changed hands probably a couple times, he drew pretty dang consistently. That's 44. Obviously, they're kind of objectifying in some respects, but Catwoman's kind of she's a character that I think kind of owns her sex appeal and it uses it as a part of her character, and it's a when it's done well, I think it's an aspect of power for her, an empowerment for her. It's part of her, her whole, she's wearing a cat suit, it's kind of her thing, and she kind of owns that. One second, I have a couple things to show that I forgot to show last video. Never mind, just one thing. This is super cheap for like a key, at least in my opinion. I got this from my local comic book shop. I don't know if I overpaid for it or not. It doesn't really bother me either way. I paid $10 for this because I had only one book on my pull list for like 2 weeks straight. And so I was like, okay. I wasn't spending much, and I wasn't even going to be in next week. I saw this on the wall. It's the first full appearance. I think she cameos in 30, barely or something. But it's the first full appearance of Jessica Cruz, who, if you know any of my history with Green Lantern, she is my favorite Green Lantern. I resonate a lot with her character and her relationship to the Green Lantern mythos. I know about this story arc, but actually I have not read this from the New 52 here because I got into her after this because this was in that era where I wasn't reading comics because I was super bummed out because of the crap getting stolen out of my car. This was in that era where I wasn't buying anything or reading anything. But yeah, this is her first appearance. Cover is not anything super oh wow, but First appearance of one of my favorite characters. Very, very affordable. Don't even, at $10, I don't even really care if I overpaid for it. It was worth it to me. But yeah, I figured I'd close the video out with that, and I kept myself pretty energized and animated, but I'm feeling it now. I'm pretty tired, pretty under the weather. Yeah, Basement Comics, end of the video, I know, but if you're watching, sorry we didn't meet up at Motor City. I totally forgot you didn't know what I looked like. But yeah, saw your video. It was awesome. Super stoked you got to meet so many creators and get stuff signed, and you were a lot more prepared and smarter than I was. But yeah, if you stuck around for an hour, frowny face, sorry about the length. I just ramble. But if you stuck around, thanks so much. Yeah, this is what I got at Motor City Comic Con. It was an awesome time. My wife and I had a great time. Lots of fun, lots of smiles, lots of nerdy comic book digging, and I got some cool stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Take care of yourselves. Have a great day. Read some comics. Go for a walk. Try to get through life together. Have a great one. Peace out. I can't believe I just said peace out. All right, bye.